I am live now. Okay, hopefully we're good. We did a check a while ago to make sure that everything was good, the sound was good, and I'm not sideways. So hopefully I'm still not sideways. Okay, am I good? Am I upside down? What? Are we not good?
You're live over there.
Am I up?
Here we are.
Okay.
Took a while.
Okay, so it is live. It's Friday Lunch and Learn with me, Dr. Polly Heil-Mealey at Abundant Health and Wellness. And we are a holistic clinic in downtown Humble at 323 East Main Street. And that's at the corner of Main and Avenue C. So what we try and do is keep you abreast of the real truth about health. And there are some things that have come up this week. And my girls at the front are really, really good at finding things and giving me things to look at. So I appreciate their help on this. So today we're going to talk about two things that were in the news this week. And one of them says the title is Targeting Gut Bacteria May Be the Key to Preventing Alzheimer's. Now, I know this is kind of backwards. You can't read it because it's Facebook Live, but I can read it for you and I can discuss it with you. Now, one of the things that we talk about here in holistic world is that you have to change your diet, change your lifestyle. And a lot of people think that diet doesn't have anything to do with it. And I remember being one of those several years ago. I had a lady friend that I met in the early 1990s, and she would talk to me about live food versus dead food. And my comment was, hey, it's food. I don't care if it's live food or dead food. I just had no understanding about that. And so I've mentioned before how when we came back from England, we lived in England, and when we came back, there were these great offerings on the grocery store shelf. There were fat-free this and fat-free that, and zero-calorie this and zero-calorie that. And I had no idea that fat-free meant that they had put some kind of synthetic something or another emulsifier in there so that the baked goods would come out and they would be very, very tasty. So this is the thing. We don't know what we don't know. So when we eat those things, when we eat the processed food, when we eat the adulterated food, it messes up our gut. Now, this particular study that we're looking at says that when the microbiome of the digestive system is messed up, then we're going to have issues with our immune system, and we're going to have issues with our brain. And so we don't want to have Alzheimer's. The closer I get away from youth, or I should have said the furthest away I get from my youth, the more concerned I am with the possibility of Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, anything like that. A brain is a terrible thing to waste. And I really like being able to understand what I read and have good comprehension and good recall. And so a lot of you, maybe like me, you're on the other side of 50. And what we want to do is we want to preserve everything that we have. So one of the things that we can do is we can keep our gut bacteria alive and well. And that's what we want, okay? So diet. So this is a research study that was done by Lund University in Sweden. And they find that unhealthy intestinal flora, so the good bacteria, can accelerate the development of Alzheimer's. So when we are born, when we are vaginally born, naturally born through the birth canal, we get our first inoculation of good probiotics. If we breastfeed our children, then our children also, we're getting that good probiotic. Don't ask me how it happens. I don't know how it happens. But the plan for a healthy person is to have 80% good bacteria, 20% bad bacteria in the gastrointestinal tract. So when we, for any reason, take any kind of antibiotic, what that does is it wipes out every bit of flora in the gut. So it's just like, I'm going to give you two different scenarios, all right? So it's in the winter time here, and when we get towards the end of winter, everybody starts to think about planting annuals in their flower bed, the spring flowers. And so what we do is we go out into the flower bed and we dig up everything. And we dig up all the weeds, dig up all the trash, everything that's happened in the winter. And then we plant the good pansies, posies, whatever it is that you like, you plant that. And you leave it and everything looks beautiful. And then you come back in just a few days, not even 2 weeks later, and you're overgrown with weeds, right? Weeds plant themselves. You don't have to worry about that. They're just going to find a way to get in. And it's the same thing with your gut. The weeds, which is your candida, your fungus, and all that kind of thing, they're just going to find an opportunistic place to grow. What keeps the candida and all of that in check is the good bacteria. There's many different strains. There's many different kinds. But what I learned in a seminar in the spring is that people are taking all kinds of different strains of probiotics, but they don't have the gut microbiome in order to use that. So people are spending a lot of money on probiotics and they're not getting what they need. So this is very, very important. If you have ever had any kind of experience with an aquarium, you know that you've got to have algae eaters or snails or something in the tank in order to kill the algae, because where you have water and where you have light and where you have fish that are doing their little excrement in the aquarium, you've got to have something to eat up all that mess. So we put algae eaters. There's some chemicals that are safe for the fish that we can put in, that we put snails in and that kind of thing. Well, you could also put a cup of bleach in your aquarium, right? And it would kill all the algae. But there's a problem with that. It would kill the algae, but it would also kill all the fish. And this is what happens when we take an antibiotic. The antibiotic kills whatever it is that is bothering us, but it also kills the good flora too. So if you have had a course of antibiotics at any time in your life, then you probably have dysbiosis in the gut. And that's just a fancy word that says your bacteria is out of balance. Now, this study shows that when the bacteria is out of balance, then that bad bacteria hastens the acceleration of Alzheimer's. Now, none of us want that. And as we get older, people make jokes and they say that we're having a senior moment. Well, we may not be having a senior moment. We may actually be having gut issues. And so what we want to do is try to rectify that. So I just want to give you some information from this study. So this doctor says that the gut microbiome is highly responsive to dietary and lifestyle factors. So what you eat is very important. Your lifestyle is very important. So if you have a lot of toxic people in your life, you have a lot of toxic individuals in your life, then you're going to have some issues. I see that Linda has come on. Thanks for joining us. I don't know who else is there because my screen's not moving, but hopefully we're getting a lot of traction here, so we'll just see what that is. Okay, so diet has a lot to do with it. Now, this doctor goes on to say Alzheimer's is a preventable disease, right? It is preventable. In the near future, we will likely be able to give good advice on what to eat and how to prevent it. So this is Dr. Frida Fakhelinas, who is the Associate Professor at the university's Food and Health Science Center. Take care of your gut by eating lots of whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Now, here in the United States, we don't advise you to eat a lot of whole grains. Why? Because whole grains in the United States, in the North American continent, well, that's not true because in Mexico they don't do this, and I'm not sure that they do this in Canada. But in the United States, they spray pesticide on all of our crops. And so when we are harvesting the crops, we're getting a better yield. The farmer's getting a better yield, so the price is right. But we as consumers are getting grains that are laced with glyphosate. And so you're going to want to look at Google and do some research on glyphosate and see what it does for you. None of it is very, very good. So back to the study. The study revealed a direct causal association between gut bacteria and the signs of Alzheimer's in mice. When a group of bacteria-free mice were colonized with bacteria of rodents that had Alzheimer's, they also developed plaques indicative of Alzheimer's. When the bacteria-free mice were colonized with the bacteria of healthy rodents, however, they developed significantly fewer plaques. Now, plaques in the brain is what brings on Alzheimer's. The brain is a and maybe we can put a picture up of the neurology in the brain, but you've got all kinds of nerves that are firing so you can make all of your connections and that kind of thing. A plaque, think of that as a white sticky substance that hooks onto the dendrites, and what that does is it stops the messages from getting where they need to, and that's why we're having senior moments, and that's why we're developing these diseases. So we do have products here in the clinic to help with that. Now, tau proteins is the name of one of the plaques in the brain. There's also amyloid plaques in the brain. And curcumin, the curcuminoids that are found in turmeric also will eat up these plaques. Now, a lot of people think that if they just add turmeric to their food that they're going to have everything that they need, but what they don't understand is that turmeric is not readily bioavailable, which means that you can put it on your food, but if you're not enhancing it or adding some cofactors to it, you're not going to be able to use it. And so we've got two products, neither of which I brought over here, but we've got the Terry's Naturally Curcumin, and we've got the Physica Bio-A Curcumin. Now, the Terry's Naturally or the Europharma, that brand is 9 times more bioavailable to the brain than just regular turmeric. The Physica brand is 20 times more bioavailable. Thank you so much. We have help here. This is a live clinic. So this Curamid, right, superior absorption curcumin. So it is 500 times stronger than turmeric, and it says in the packet that it is 9 times more bioavailable, and that's what you want, bioavailable. This one, Bio-A curcumin phytosome, I like this one the best because it's a phytosome. What does that mean? The phytosome means that it knows where to go in the body. It's got that targeting mechanism that it knows where to go. So I like this one, and this one is 20 times more bioavailable. So if you're suffering from plaques, if you're suffering from senior moments, you might want to try this. There is this brand has, and I don't have one because I'm all sold out because it sells out a lot. It's called Curamid Brain. I think it's what it's called. It used to be called Mental Advantage, but now it's called Brain. And we use that with some of our older patients who are suffering from dementia and that kind of thing. And within 6 months, medically, on their neurological exam from their medical doctor, it shows that they were much, much better and that they had reversed the early onset of dementia. So we want to do that. We've got some other products too. So this is phosphatidylserine, right? This is very, very good to go into the brain and clear out plaques and that kind of thing. It's a very, very clean product. We use this a lot as well. And then this is one of my favorite products. It is called ACZ Nano. And this is a advanced cellular zeolite. Now, a zeolite is a product that can go through the cell wall and can chelate heavy metals. So it doesn't do anything for the tau proteins as far as I'm aware. But a lot of times if we have a lot of dental work, if we have a lot of injections that have mercury, that have aluminum and that kind of thing, then we're going to have a lot of heavy metals in the brain. Hey, Beth, I thought you were, oh no, it's your sister that's on vacation. Thanks for joining, I appreciate you. Anyway, when we have amalgams, silver amalgams in the mouth, we think they're silver. They're not silver. They just look like silver. There is a lot of mercury in there. There's a little short YouTube video called The Smoking Tooth. We'll put that link up. And what it does is it shows how when you eat something hot, when you chew, when you rub on those silver fillings, that the mercury off gases and it goes right up through the soft palate right into the brain. So this is very, very good, and I alternate this and this, the Curamed Brain. I alternate this and this with the patients so that we get the great recovery for their brain. And so that's kind of what we do here in the clinic. So we're still reading from this report. It says, we don't know how bacteria can affect the brain pathology. We are currently investigating this. We think that the bacteria may affect the regulatory T cells in the gut, which can control the inflammatory process, both locally in the gut and systemically, including the brain. So when you've got neurotoxic chemicals or metals in the brain, they cross the blood-brain barrier and they cause inflammation in the brain. This is why we don't advise flu shots, we don't advise pneumonia shots, we don't advise shingle shots, and we certainly don't advise vaccinations for childhood diseases. When you have a childhood disease, and I've had many of them, and I am still standing, there's just a lot of information out there that says if you get the mumps, measles, chickenpox, you're going to die. You are not going to die. What that does is it confers lifelong immunity to other diseases. And so God, in his wisdom, has us have an immune system. And when we conquer those childhood viruses, we have better immune systems to face the challenges that we face when we get older. So this is really, really important. So the study goes on to say that by changing the gut microbiota composition, you can affect the immune system and the host to a large extent. Now, I know this is backwards, but what this says is thrive in 63. And we've been using this protocol for several months, and we're having great, great results on this. What this is a protocol to go in and change the gut microbiota, right? So you may have heard of leaky gut syndrome. You may have a lot of food intolerances. You may have some skin rashes like eczema, seborrhea, and all that kind of thing. These are indications that you are suffering from passive leaky gut syndrome. Now, what is that? That is a system in the body. We've got a GI tract from our mouth all the way to our bottom, right? It's one of the first things that's created when we are in our mother's womb. It is covered with mucus. When our gut bacteria is off, then we grow the bad bacteria, which is the yeast and the fungus and that kind of thing. That will eat up the GI tract, which allows microscopic food particles to pass through the GI tract, get back into the bloodstream. Well, the bloodstream knows and the immune system knows that that's not supposed to be in there. So it sends out the T cells, the B cells, all that to arrest that food particle, right? And it sets up inflammation in the gut, and it sets up an environment for you to get an autoimmune disease. So We can look at your eye when you come in and do an exam. We always do an iridology exam, and we can look at the nutritive zone in the eye, and we can see if there's probably a possibility of having yeast and fungus and that kind of thing. Now, women, I know that we always think a yeast infection happens in the vagina, and yes, it does, but you can have a systemic yeast infection. So what does that look like? That looks like itching. That looks like itching in the ear, itching around the nose, itching, of course, in the vagina, in the anus, all that kind of stuff. So athlete's foot also is indicative of a fungal jock itch as well. Also toenails. If you are older and you have the very thick yellow toenails, you have a systemic yeast infection or fungal infection. Now, there are a lot of doctors who think that cancer is at its core a fungal infection. So you might think that this is just not such a big deal. Yeah, I'm getting old, and yeah, I have ugly toenails. But this is really, really a big deal, because that ugly toenail is telling you what's going on in your body. So back to Thrive in 63. 63 is 63 days. Hey, Jill. Thanks for joining. Love you, girlfriend. Are you just helping having lots of little hugs from that little baby? Kefir helps tons. Yes, kefir does help. Kefir is very good because it replaces the good bacteria in the body. Now, back to Thrive in 63. It's 63 days, and what this is a protocol that is 21 days times 3. So phase 1 is 21 days, phase 2 is 21 days, and phase 3 is 21 days. Phase 1 is very, very gentle, and what it does is it goes in and it cleans up and roots out all the bad bacteria that you've got in the gut. And then phase 2 and phase 3 replants the good bacteria and reforms that GI tract. So that's something that is very, very important. We're getting just lots of great reports from people that have done this. When we give you this, or we ask you to do this, we're going to send you a questionnaire where you, I think it's a 2-page, 3-page questionnaire. Anyway, you can do it digitally. It's always, never, or sometimes, right? It's just real easy. And so what you do with that questionnaire is you put down your symptoms: bloating, belching, all these kind of, I know 3 pages for all that, but anyway, there's 3 pages. And what we have found when people have done this product is that they come back and their negative symptoms in 63 days have improved by 80 to 85%. Now, that's a huge success rate. Now, what happens? Well, there's an avoid list that we avoid, a food list. And then in this little booklet, now I'm not married to the booklet as far as a food plan, but it gives you a menu, it gives you a shopping list, it gives you the stores that has the different things, but it also gives you the food journal. Now, the food journal I am married to because I want to know what you're eating and what's causing you to have distress, right? So this is a great little book, and you get new recipes every phase. So I'm just going to talk about some symptoms. This is how, if you don't know what's going on in your body, right? Symptoms such as constipation, IBS, eczema, the inability to lose weight, and fatigue may be unrelated, or may seem unrelated. By the time you're aware of these signs of ill health, the damage has already been done. The intestinal lining is compromised, creating imbalances such as leaky gut, IBS, gluten intolerance, and even disease. So the first 21 days, you are making changes. This is a repair phase. The second is your body will begin to balance, adjust, and accept the changes. This is a rejuvenation page. And then the third phase is the transformation phase. And so that's why we've got 3 phases on this. Now, the avoid list is quite intimidating. Okay, I'm just telling you. These are all the inflammatory foods. Hey, Paige, thanks for joining. These are all the inflammatory foods that are causing you to have some issues. So, wheat, all grains. Wheat, barley, rye, oats, rice, quinoa, amaranth, and buckwheat. All legumes, okay? Peanuts, kidney beans, black beans, red beans, navy beans, garbanzo. And this is the bean season, right? Everybody wants to come home on a cold day and have beans and sausage and cornbread. That's what we do. All processed foods, okay? Packaged luncheon meats and foods that are prepackaged, boxed, bagged, microwavable, etc. Somebody else joined. Julianne. Hey, Julianne. Thanks for joining. All commercial dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, sour cream, right? Now, if you do organic, that's okay. The reason we don't want commercial dairy products is because they have hormones and they have antibiotics in them, and those are going to have some issues. All sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and or artificial sweeteners. Local honey, however, is acceptable. All alcohol, sodas, caffeine, and corn. So corn is my favorite vegetable. I'll just tell you, I would have it every day if I could. But in this country, they're all genetically modified. They all have the glyphosate on them, and they're all going to be causing irritation in the gut. When we have that irritation, it kills off the good bacteria and it fosters the bad bacteria, which is why we have these diseases. So, back to our study here. It says that the findings are that Alzheimer's may be more preventable than health experts previously thought. The composition of the gut bacteria is determined by a mix of genes and lifestyle factors. So diet, exercise, stress, and toxin exposure all play a huge role in the gut's bacterial makeup. Okay, so the researchers are requesting that we all change. I'm getting a lot of feedback over here from the peanut gallery. What is going on over there? They're laughing at me. I don't know what. I think they're probably saying, what else is there to eat? Oh, okay. Anyway, it's a plant-based diet. So we do want to do plant-based diet with probiotic supplementation to improve the health of your microbiome. As I've said before, I think that you need to have some meat in your diet because you need to have those nutritional components of your amino acids and your B12 and that kind of thing. So I definitely want to do red meat at least once a week, and I want to do eggs regularly because eggs are a perfect food. So moving right along, and they're telling me I have 2 minutes, okay? This study is the first one that shows the gut connection, and it is published in the journal Frontiers in Cellular Neuroscience. The researchers list 10 different ways that the microbiome can contribute to the development of Alzheimer's disease, including fungal and bacterial infections in the intestinal tract and the increased permeability of the blood-brain barrier. Now, I want to close on this, on the blood-brain barrier, because that barrier is supposed to protect toxic load from getting into the gray matter, right? So this is a little list. We'll publish this also on the webpage. But just so you know, because you probably didn't know, because I didn't know this either, the safe, quote-unquote, safe limit for an infant, a 2-month-old infant, for aluminum, right? And we know that aluminum is in all of our vaccines because it is an adjuvant. The safe limit for a 2-month-old, which is when they start getting their injections, is 25 micrograms. Now, I don't agree with that. I think there's no safe limit because aluminum is a neurotoxin. However, I digress. On the vaccines, and we have all these lists of vaccines, and we're going to publish these on the page, so you're going to have to put this up. The amount of aluminum, 330 micrograms, 625 micrograms, 600 micrograms, 330 micrograms. Nowhere on this sheet is anything that's 25 micrograms. Now, granted, all of these injections are not going to be given to your 2-month-old, but be aware there is no safe limit because aluminum crosses the blood-brain barrier. So I'm going to say goodbye, and you guys have I have visitors. I'm going to say goodbye. You guys have a great weekend. It is December, and so we're getting into the festive mood. Be blessed. I'll see you next week.